Welcome to the second part of our series, What Job Seekers Should Be Doing Now. My name is Kathleen Smith, and I am the Chief Outreach Officer for ClearedJobs.Net, a job board and job fair company. We are all experiencing a new normal, and we really felt it was important that all of our community of job seekers understand the things that they should be doing now to continue their job search. Your job search should definitely not be put on hold at this time. This is a time for learning and becoming familiar with things that you had not been exposed to before. Just like I'm being exposed to a new technology on doing webinars, and every now and then I have a little glitch. So I hope everyone will be patient with me. I have with me today two of our recruiters who do a wonderful job taking care of our job seekers. The first is Denise Slaysman from Cambridge International and Mary Virtuoso from Resolvit. So the first question that I'm going to have Denise answer for us is, what are three changes you are seeing now in your recruiting of security cleared job seekers?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I think the process is taking a little bit longer than normal. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there as we adjust to the new normal. A good thing is candidates seem to be more available to speak to us since they're home. They have a little more confidentiality. They're available. And I think the third is people are just a little more reluctant to move. We still have opportunities to hire, but I think just people are a little bit afraid. I've heard reluctant to leave their health insurance and not wanting to be the newest person hired and things like that. But the good news is people are open to talking, and I think that's key here. We're building relationships, we're starting that process, and if you're not ready to move now, maybe we can re-engage in the future.
Mary, what are three things that you've noticed that have been very different in the past several weeks?
Yes, like Denise was saying, things have definitely slowed down or have even come to a halt, especially in commercial industries. Companies are still figuring things out. So naturally, things are going to be slow and they're more cautious. So naturally, things would come to a halt. What's interesting is we've seen an influx in government requirements, especially cybersecurity. We're all working remotely. We're all online. We're all at home on our computers, on Zoom. So we're all vulnerable and susceptible to cyber threats. So we've also seen an influx in cybersecurity roles. That's an in-demand skill set right now, given that we're all online. So that's been interesting.
Mary, can you just expand a little bit more on how it is different for you now to engage with job seekers? I mean, before it was a lot of phone call. Are you doing other, communications with job seekers that are interested in some of your positions?
I'll reach out to, like, for example, most of the requirements I'm working on right now are cybersecurity roles. Like I was saying, there's an in-demand need for that. So I'll reach out to anybody who's in that world or that's in their wheelhouse and just network. Hey, just looking to network, hoping to share some information about the teams and the clients that we're working with local in your area or, across the nation. So a lot of networking.
And Denise, being in the security cleared community, I'm sure that you're used to working one way of communicating with your job seekers. What are some of the other tools that you're using to communicate?
We're using a lot of new tools, actually, and I think that's something that candidates need to get comfortable with outside of the phone. We're using Skype, Microsoft, Zoom. So it's get used to that virtual interview, get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. I'd say be patient with the use of technology because, as we mentioned, there can be some glitches, but it's fun. I mean, have a sense of humor about it. Try to stay positive as we work through this.
Yeah, we were talking as we were prepping for the webinar that all three of us are experiencing a very bad storm right now. We're listening to trees fall and wind gusts, and we're all concerned that we might lose our internet. So being very aware when you're communicating, especially during an interview or a screening call, what's going on around you, and is there a possibility you might lose internet? So the second question, Mary, I was hoping that you would kick off on is, if someone is currently in the interview and offer stage, what are two things that they really should be focusing on right now?
Well, first and foremost, practice patience. Things are slow right now. So it's, don't get discouraged. Just expect things to take longer than usual. And also bug the recruiter, bug the HR rep that you're working with. We prefer that. We're not going to get mad if you keep reaching out to us. Did you get any updates? Did you get any updates? It shows that you're still interested, and we want to get this, the process moving as much as you do. So just constant communication with the person that you're working with on those roles or that particular opportunity.
How about you, Denise? You have a long pipeline of people having to work with, meeting with the client, meeting with the hiring manager. They've invested a lot of time into this hiring process. And all of a sudden, about 3 weeks ago, they were in the interview and offer stage, and now they're sort of at a loss. What are some of the things that they should be doing to sort of move that process along, or at least help with their impatience?
I agree with what Mary said. I think stay in touch with your recruiter, but it's a two-way street. I think the recruiter and the hiring manager needs to stay engaged with the candidate as well. So if you know it's longer, maybe do a virtual cup of coffee if you have time to do that, or just talk about, what's going on at the company, if there's any new wins, if there's, something that you normally do at the end of the first quarter, things like that. Just share information. It's a two-way street. We want to make sure that folks that are engaged and want to come to work with our company are there when we need them, there when we get that opportunity to make the hire. So I think it goes both ways for the candidates to engage with your recruiter, but also if the recruiter and the hiring manager can, just frequently interact with that candidate, understanding they're probably anxious, right? They want to get back to work, and we don't want to lose them to a competitor. So stay engaged. It's a two-way street, but again, patience is going to be the key right now. And also, it's a great time to do research on the company, right? If it's something you already have a contingent offer, go out and read about them, read about what they're doing, what they've done in the past. Use social media to see if you know other contacts there. They're people that you can, again, just reach out to. How do you like working there? What's going on? How are you adapting to this change? People are hungry for that, to get out of social isolation, right? People want to talk right now. I know I've reached back to some former managers just to see how they're doing, and it validated what we're finding on our side as well.
So Denise, can you delve a little bit deeper into what, shall we say, what really is bugging a recruiter, or what is bugging an HR manager? When I think of bugging, I think of my dog who wants to go out and play with a tennis ball, and he's bugging me every 5 minutes. I'm sure you're not recommending that we bug our recruiters every 5 minutes, but what would be a regular good pipeline or timeline as far as what is a good bugging of a recruiter timeline?
I never think it's bugging if we've established some expectations. So if you call me on Monday, we chat through it, and then I say, if I don't hear anything, I'm going to reach back to you by Friday anyway. Like, just set the expectation so folks know when to hear from you. I think the worst thing is that kind of lagging black hole. People just hate that so much, and it's really not a good image of your company. So I think just let people know, I'm going to contact you as soon as I hear something, or at least by Friday if we don't hear anything. And that way they know what to expect. I think once a week is fair.
So not the recruiters, but the job seekers should, maybe set up a calendar date to once a week check in with the recruiters and HR managers that they were, working with, correct?
Yeah, I think once a week is fair. And I think give them an opportunity to respond as well. So if you don't hear anything Monday, just give me a day. Don't call me Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. Like, give them an opportunity to respond.
And Mary, what kind of timeline are you looking at as far as, how often do you want a job seeker to contact you when you're sort of in the interview offer stage?
Well, I think, like Denise was saying, open communication. If we're talking Monday morning, hey, let's plan to talk Thursday afternoon because the hiring manager said she'd get back to me Thursday morning. So plan to hear from me Thursday afternoon. Set up a timeline so you're on the same page.
That's great. So our next question is sort of a big question because it's all encompassing of what we're all dealing with right now. So what are some tips that you would give job seekers right now to support their job search? So You know, we talked about a few of these earlier: video conferencing etiquette, or social media, or morale, or research. You know, pick one you would like. So, Mary, I'm going to have you start.
I would say, again, networking is huge. And now is the time. People are home, they're available. They're dying for constant connection right now. They want to feel needed. So if you're interested in a company, reach out to somebody who works there, or reach out to somebody who's in your industry and say, hey, hoping you could help me out. I'm looking to do this. You seem like the person to network through. Networking is your strongest tool. And I know it works because that's how I got the job that I'm at right now. I reached out to a girl, she put me in contact with the CEO. I reached out with my resume, said, hey, I'm interested. And then I got an interview a couple of days later. So I know networking is strong and I know it works.
Can you touch a little bit more on social networking, as far as we all tend to be on social media these days? I mean, we have been for almost over a decade or so, but realizing that we're also consuming a lot of other information through social media, we may get involved in discussions that we don't want to have public. I mean, what are some guidelines that job seekers should know about the social networking online? Mary?
I would definitely say stick to a LinkedIn if you're going to network for a job. And then I would leave Facebook and like Instagram to your personal life, and, you know, separate the two. I don't think I would network on Facebook if I'm looking for a job. I'm going to stick to like a LinkedIn and kind of keep the two worlds separate.
And Denise, can you sort of tell us what tips you would have for people supporting their job search right now? I mean, we have so many different tools now. What are some of the things that we should be working on?
Do you mean professionally or in their job search?
In their job search, I'm sorry. Yes, in their job
Okay.
search.
In the job search, just to tag on to the networking, most companies have a very robust referral program. So if you are not hearing anything and you're applying and you know that company is hiring, look on LinkedIn and see who you have connections with and see if they'll make a virtual introduction to someone in that company. Most employers will give a little bit of preference to a referral. So I think that's a great way to use social media to your advantage. I think it's a good time to clean up your profile. If you've done any online training during this downtime, add that on there. If you've, obtained a certification or something like that, update that. I would just make sure it looks good, it's clean, it's professional, grammar, punctuation, things like that. As far as Facebook and other platforms, they can be successful, but I think you have to be responsible for the types of things you post on there. You don't want to post, political, religious, things like that. I would say, again, stay positive in what's going on in the world. So if your Facebook is not locked down, make sure it's something out there that you would be okay with an employer seeing.
And Denise, can you touch on, we're now interviewing online, we're now interviewing virtually. What are some of the tips that you've had to work on it to improve your virtual interviewing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Working at home is typically one, and now we're at 4. So you do have doorbells and children and cats and dogs. So just make sure on both sides, the employer and the candidate, that you're prepared for that. You want to treat a virtual interview just like a face-to-face, right? So you want to be professional. You want to speak well. You want to present well. You want to make sure that those distractions are at a minimum, your cell phone, things like that. So I would treat the virtual interview online exactly as you would a face-to-face. Be prepared, have your questions, have your research, just be ready.
Mary, do you have anything to add?
Yes, check your tech. Make sure if you're using Zoom that the video works, the audio works. Test the link ahead of time. Make sure whatever platform they're using is compatible. Make sure if you have to download something, do that ahead of time. You don't want to do this 5 minutes before the interview and then you're scrambling to get on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's really great to make sure that any technology, because it's not going to be universal what people are going to be using. They're going to be using a wide variety of platforms. And that's a really great suggestion, Mary, to sort of do a dry run with it. Another suggestion I would have is actually do a test interview with a friend of yours. See if you can get on the Zoom or the Skype, not on that actual link, but another one, and be able to test it out. You know, how do you look on the phone? How do you look on the screen? And really being clear on how you enunciate. So getting yourself comfortable in a virtual environment will really help your interview process. Our next and final question before we answer a question from the audience is, what are some of the core job search tools that we should be focusing on, we as job seekers? There are core tools that we always use in a job search. And a lot of times people think, well, now that the environment has changed, we don't need to use those tools. I think we need to use those tools a little bit more. So Denise, what are some of the tools that we really should be focusing on in our job search now?
I mean, I still think we're using a lot of what we've done in the past as far as social media, um, referrals, the career sites, job boards, but I think networking and referrals are probably my favorite too, just kind of that word of mouth. Who do you know? I know we push out a lot of our hot jobs on social media, but also to our staff to say, who do you know? Who would you recommend for this opportunity?
And Mary, what do you have?
I think your resume is one of your strongest tools. You know, you can give your resume to 10 different people and they'll read it 10 different ways. You know, there's a science to putting your resume together. At Resolvit, we have a whole team that works on resumes. You know, there's a certain format that you should do. And I think your summary is your strongest piece on a resume. It lays out everything. It lays out your whole history and your background. And, you know, some IT resources have a resume that's like 5 pages long, and a hiring manager's not going to want to go all the way to the 5th page. So put a summary in there and then post it online, post it on your LinkedIn.
Denise, is there anything else as far as a core tool? I mean, I think that what I find is a lot of people don't do the introspection as to what they want to do next, and they usually leave that for the recruiter to answer. So what is it like when you talk to somebody who doesn't know what they want to do next? What would be your advice? Have you run into that before when someone says, I just want this job because I don't know what to do next?
I do. I work a lot with transitioning military folks, and there's a lot of career changers. And so I always ask them, what have you done to prepare for that industry? And cyber's like my go-to example because everybody wants to do cyber. But if you haven't taken any classes or obtained any certifications, it's gonna be really hard to make that transition to a credible position. So you have to improve yourself. You can't rely on the recruiter to do it for you. I think you have to be motivated, understand the industry that you're going into. What do employers look for in that background? What are the competencies? And then network and talk to people who've made that transition, find out what they were successful in doing and where their challenges were, things like that. So I think, you know, really take that time to research the industry. What do you need to be successful there? Are you prepared to take a pay cut? Because that might happen, you know, realistically. But just really research what you want to do. And it's really you. I mean, I wouldn't have someone tell me what they think I'd be great at in the future, right? I know what I want to do. So I think it's really looking at what core competencies you have, what's transferable skill sets, and then what do you need to get there.
So Mary, I'm actually going to go back to our previous question for you, and you were talking a lot about the technical resume. How do you, other than the summary, how do you really like to see that laid out? I've done a lot of resume review in the cybersecurity community, and I'm always curious as to various different layouts. There seems to be a grid that's put up at the top, that certs and languages are all over. So I would assume we would want to make it orderly, but what is a recruiter's orderly perspective on a technical resume?
I think you want to lay it out in a way that's easy for everyone to understand. Like I was saying, I think the summary is your strongest piece. It lays out your entire resume. IT, you know, professional in the industry for 20 years, 10 years in cybersecurity, hold an active clearance, have, you know, Security Plus and CISSP, looking to do this, want to do this. Summarize your resume and then lay it out, after the summary, technical skills, then your functional skills, then your certs, your clearance, if you have a clearance, then your experience, and then your education at the end. That's the format that I think is successful, but everybody has their own, if something doesn't work and you're using a certain format, or your resume is a certain way, and you're not getting any hits and you're not getting any luck, change it, play around with it, and see what works best for you.
Denise, one question that we get a lot is, someone has 20 to 30 years experience and they want to do an 8 to 10 page resume because they want to show all of that experience. And I see you shaking your head. So what would be some advice to, some of our military transitioning personnel or to other people, as far as if you have 20 to 25 years experience, how should you be laying that out in a resume?
Yeah, it's okay to shorten that experience, I think, to 1 to 2 pages. I, like Mary, I absolutely love a compelling summary or objective at the top, not objective, but like a little paragraph about you that gets me engaged and keeps me reading, especially if you're going to have a longer resume. I want to see just your basic highlights up there, 20-year veteran with this, and this clearance. Get me engaged to keep me going. I don't like to see a resume that has, some training that you took back in 1982. Is that applicable now? Probably not. So really just make it applicable to the positions that you're applying for. And it's okay to have more than one resume, but just try to get the recruiter's attention as best you can. And I can tell you, most of us won't read past two pages. I think it's, it's kind of that 1 minute. We're looking for the basic qualifications. So we're looking for the years of experience, the education, the clearance, the certifications. We're looking for, do you move forward or not? We're that first round screen for the company. So we're really just looking for that basic information to decide whether to move you forward. And if we struggle to find it, we're just going to move forward.
Great.
Without you.
So one of the first question that we have from the audience is, are companies facing any delays in checking applicant references or their clearances?
Our process is we do the pre-screen. I'll call you, we'll talk. I'll verify your clearance before presenting you to the hiring manager. So I typically have that within 1 to 2 hours.
Great. So our next question is concerning contingent offers. So Denise, question from the audience is, how many contingent offers should I accept?
Wow, that is a great question. I always tell folks it's okay to accept a contingent offer if that's the job that you want. I would only accept a contingent offer of something that I was seriously considering, because you're going to get that call that says, okay, we won the contract and now we're ready for you to come over. So for me, it's accept the ones that you want or that you were very seriously considering. So when you get the call to come over, you can do it. I do know as a recruiter, sometimes you're competing with other organizations and folks will sign a letter of intent with multiple organizations. I think that's okay too. That's your umbrella. Especially if you're the incumbent on the contract, you want to stay on that contract, you might sign a letter of intent with everyone. But I would really sign the contingent offer on the one that you feel most strongly that company's going to win and you're going to be willing to go when they do.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, how about you?
If you're going to sign multiple, contingent offers, I would be completely transparent with the recruiter or the HR rep that you're working with. Yes, I'm committed to this, but I want to let you know that I'm also interested in this role. That way there's no surprises. I think everyone should be completely upfront with each other, right? On both sides, the candidate to the recruiter and the recruiter to the candidate. And, it's your livelihood. We don't take it lightly. So we want what's best for you and in your best interest. And then we just ask, to return the favor.
So we have an age-old question coming through, and everyone has a very different opinion on this one. So what is the importance of a cover letter and a thank you? So Denise?
A thank you is way more important than a cover letter, in my opinion. I really don't read cover letters, unfortunately. Just with the volume that we go through, I'm really just reviewing the resumes of the folks that we have. A thank you, I think, is amazing. I love when I get thank yous from candidates and I forward them to the hiring manager right away, because I think it speaks to integrity and character. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who's going to fit in well in our team. So it's more than just your basic skill set. It speaks a lot about who you are as a person. So I love thank you emails. Doesn't have to be handwritten. Just send me an email. I love it.
Mary, how about you?
I think a cover letter is an outdated form on a resume. I think the summary is the cover letter. It's the new cover letter.
And do you get thank you notes?
Yes, you should always send a thank you. Even if you walk out of the interview and you're not interested, you should still send a thank you.
Great advice. So we have one more question about participating in virtual job fairs. I know that Mary said you hadn't participated in any, but Denise, you have. What are one or two tips for participating in a virtual job fair?
I think they're fun. I think it's not the most effective way to get a position, but it's a great way to get to know somebody in that company, because it's typically very fast. Similar to this format. I've done it where it's been a panel and they've asked questions of the panel. And then I've done it where I'm just chatting with a candidate who's interested in a job that I have. So there's different formats. Some are very organized, some are loosely organized. But I think it's another way right now that we're being flexible in the environment that we're in. So I think if you have an opportunity to participate, do it. Find out what it's about. See if that works for you or your style. You have nothing to lose.
Okay. Well, our half hour has gone by very quickly. I want to thank Denise and Mary for their time today and for their willingness to get out of their comfort zones and come on to this online webinar panel. I'd like to thank all of you who participated with us today. We are experiencing a new normal, and the only way we'll get through all of this is together. Please look forward to our next webinar, which will be on April 24th. We'll be doing another panel, and we have some other online videos coming out in the next week or so. Take care and have a great weekend, everyone.